Thank you folks for joining. Welcome. We're so excited to have you here. We're just going to wait a few minutes for our colleagues to join. If you'd like, you can put your name in the chat, introduce yourself, and where you're calling in from today. Welcome for those who are coming on in. We are excited to have everyone. We're just going to give folks a couple more minutes to join. Welcome, everyone. All right, we are going to get started. As we begin, feel free to put your name in the chat and where you're calling in from. I am thrilled to be here today. My name is Dr. Megan Benet. I am leading this rural AI strategy work with my colleague Ashley Fellows, who I'm joined with. And we are thrilled to have so many folks here. We are excited to take everyone through what this opportunity is and get a chance to answer your questions. Ashley?
Yes, as Megan noted, my name is Ashley Fellows. I lead our practice and implementation team here at Fullscale, and so excited to be able to have this opportunity to partner with folks in the field and to learn more about what it takes to advance AI implementation in rural settings. While they're not presenting, we do want to just make sure that we know that we are partnering on this project with All4Ed, and there are several members of the All4Ed team on the call, so thank you so much, folks. All4Ed is a national organization that is committed to advancing educational equity through policy and practice. They are bringing, just generally, but also to this project specifically, incredible expertise, perspective, and relationships with school and system leaders. So we view them as a critical partner in supporting this network. And so while you may not see their faces on this exact call, just know that we are working in lockstep with them as we put on this opportunity.
All right, so what we're going to do today is we are going to just go over a couple norms. We are a big group here, and so we just want to make sure we're all on the same page. We're then going to go through what is this opportunity that is the Strategy Lab and provide you with some examples of what we mean when we talk about pilots. We'll then go through each section of the application and make sure that you feel really good about how you're answering them. And then around a little bit about the timeline and procedure for finalists and final selections. And then we'll have a big chunk of time at the end for open question and answer. Again, since we are a big group, just ask that folks please keep themselves on mute if you're not speaking. But we do want you to ask questions throughout. You don't have to save them until the end. Feel free to put them in the chat. And if you have a question that you want to ask during, you can just use the Zoom hand raise feature. If we can't get a chance to answer it during our call, during this time, we'll save it for the question and answer. And if we still can't give you an answer, then we'll make sure to follow up afterwards. We are all coming in from all over the country, as you can see in the chat. So we just ask that everyone is respectful of our different perspectives, keep our comments concise. And since we are obviously presenting in front of so many people, it seems inevitable that technology glitches will happen. So please bear with us.
All right. So before we kick off, we wanted to just take a moment to share a little bit about Fullscale. For folks that don't know, as of about 7 months ago, we are the merger of the Aurora Institute as well as the Learning Accelerator. And our organization is focused on uniting the education field to drive collective learning. So in our work, we strive to break silos, bridge divides, and lift up new evidence and unseen innovations. Fullscale envisions a world where every human reaches their full potential. So as part of that, we are committed to supporting the education field in transforming systems at scale. We work to do this in a couple of ways, advancing powerful teaching and learning practices alongside the policies and conditions that make them possible. We do this by pairing practice-centered innovation with systems-level guidance and helping communities drive that change with breadth, depth, and durability for all learners. I think that the Rural AI Strategy Lab is a clear example of that approach. We're trying to make sure that we're learning alongside and from both schools and districts while also zooming out to identify the patterns and the lessons that can inform the larger field.
There we go. Okay. So we are here to talk about the strategy lab. Why are we doing this? Why are we taking this on right now? We know AI is here. It's not coming, it is here. And there are national conversations happening about this all the time. But rural districts who make up 40% of our schools aren't always represented in those conversations. We know, and I'm a small town, I'm a Vermont girl, small rural town. And I know that the communities, rural communities face they have opportunities, but they also face distinct challenges when it comes to any kind of technology adoption, but in particular AI. And so we know that this is the moment where we need to bring rural communities to the table to be part of this conversation, not only so we make sure that they're not left behind, but also because they offer these unique perspectives that will change the conversation that needs to be changed. And so we are thrilled to have everyone here to help us solve this problem. The opportunity here is that we will be supporting 12 to 15 rural school teams, school and district teams, to identify a problem that you are having, and not an AI problem necessarily, but a problem that you're having, scheduling, busing, attendance, anything, any real problem that you are having, and then how can we use AI to help solve that problem? We're going to have the opportunity together to be really thoughtful about how we're examining these issues, and you're going to be coming up with a bespoke solution that is for your community. There is no one size fits all. We're going to be following a design team, a design thinking type process, but what you come up with is yours. You're also going to be learning in a group with these other 12 to 15 teams who come from rural areas as well, that you'll be able to learn from quicker, faster, better. You're also going to be helping us to generate insights that will inform the field while staying grounded in local needs. We'll be working together to generate various resources, toolkits that will help both shape the narrative, but also provide actionable guidance for other communities who are looking to do what you're doing.
All right, so if you're on this call, you're likely checking this out to see if this is a really good fit for your particular school and district or network context. And so we want to go just a little bit deeper into the details of what the process actually looks like. So we're going to talk about the strategy lab structure. Some of this may be a repeat if you've gone through the FAQ or have, had different exposure points, but still worth going through. So the Strategy Lab will in general be a 6-month based learning experience, largely March through September, though we may blur into October a little bit. As Megan noted, it will take place with 12 to 15 different school teams. The engagement will be a combination of a few different types of engagement. So there will be some virtual and synchronous convenings where we're having cohort sessions. There will be coaching in your school and district teams. There will be some asynchronous and applied work. And then, as we've noted, the team lead will be asked to join the in-person convening at the Full Scale Symposium in October. Throughout all of those different engagements, school teams will design and pilot an AI-enabled approach aligned towards a local goal. And as noted, we will make sure that we're offering both financial in the form of a stipend as well as logistical support to make sure that we can reduce some of those barriers to participation. When it comes to programming, so what we will actually do during the time, Strategy Lab's going to take school teams through pretty traditional design thinking. So there are 4 distinct phases. The first is come together. This is going to be an opportunity to complete both the AI Innovation Index as well as a needs assessment. This is a process of school teams learning just a lot more about their context from a variety of different stakeholders and perspectives. What are the needs? What are the opportunities? And how are those opportunities felt or experienced by a wide variety of stakeholders? Then comes Dream Big. That is the opportunity to think about, to brainstorm, to prototype. Hey, there's a world out there of different ways we could solve this. Let's take the information and really whittle it down to a couple of different options, whether that's tools, whether that's approaches, whether that's processes. Let's narrow down on one bet that we think is going to help us move forward. Then start small. We'll support school teams in planning out a pilot, thinking about what types of data are we going to collect that is both reasonable but still informative, and execute that pilot at the level that teams have decided. And then finally, we go to do more, where folks will look at the outcomes of the pilot, they'll reflect on how the process went, and make some thoughts and decisions about next steps. That could look like saying, hey, our pilot was excellent. We want to think about how we can scale it to different places. It might say, hey, our, bets was totally off, and we maybe need to pivot and think about something else, or somewhere in the middle. It went pretty well, but we think that with some small changes, we could actually have a bigger impact. So we want to try it again with this change. Big picture zoom out. Through this process, school teams will have the opportunity to identify a need. They will strategically plan and execute a pilot to address it, observe its outcomes, and then use that information to inform next steps. To talk a little bit about the types of activities, cohort sessions are going to focus on developing a shared vision and understanding of the activities that help lead you through the needs assessment, brainstorming, prototyping, those things from before. And we'll also offer up space for problem solving and brainstorming. As Megan noted, one of the best parts of a network is that you are in community with folks that are, like-minded, striving for the same types of things, and have some pieces in common with you, as well as unique perspective and experiences and strengths. And so we do aim to bring folks together to really elevate the shared genius in the room. Coaching will center on contextual-based problem solving. So while cohorts may be a little bit more broad in thinking about the needs of the cohort as a whole, coaching will really focus specifically on the needs of your school team, the context, the barriers, opportunities. It will support with the prioritization of critical activities. So we will have like a toolkit basically to help lead you through those 4 phases. But you and your coach can think about which of these feel really important. We only have so much time, which feel the most important for our setting to make sure that we're doing. Connecting you to support and expertise, and then again, customizing those activities. And then it is worth noting, part of the Strategy Lab programming is documentation of your work, as that supports the creation of resources and tools. That could be things like filling out a workbook, and that's something your coach can support you with. It might be like pulling out anonymized, student samples, a PowerPoint that you put for your staff training. Kind of depends on what the specific pilot is, but we do aim to document the work that y'all are doing over the course of the Strategy Lab so that we can better capture the picture of what it takes and help us to pull out for those resources at the end. The last thing that I will note is we want to make sure that as a part of the Strategy Lab programming, we are offering school teams access to AI expertise and support. So in addition to the pilot focused programming, we want to make sure that we have opportunities for connection to deeper expertise around prioritized topics. So this could include things like responsible and ethical AI in education, student and data privacy, AI literacy for a variety of stakeholders, AI procurement. I don't have a list for you right now because I don't know who exactly the cohort is going to be made up of. But this will be an opportunity for us to say, hey, what are the needs of the group? Who might have expertise in the education field? And this could look like curating resources, spotlighting webinars, potentially having an expert come in and lead a webinar for cohort members. We don't quite know what this looks like, but just know that we have a vision as well as some funding to make sure that we can make this a part of the cohort experience. So we also know that we are talking about pilot examples at a pretty high level. We do want to avoid telling folks what you should be piloting, right? That needs to be based off of your context, your needs. But we do think that giving some examples helps people to think about, again, is this the right type of opportunity for me? And will this meet the needs of our school teams? So as we noted, you'll be conducting that needs assessment to identify an area of focus. And when we have, from past strategy labs, from what we know of current AI use in the education field, it is very likely that areas of focus will land across one of 3 domains. So the first is non-instructional workflow. The second is instructional workflow. And then the third would be student level learning. So your team would work to design a pilot solution that typically will fall in one of those 3 workflows. So let's look at some examples in practice. So a couple of examples of non-instructional workflow. Let's say that through a needs assessment, a team discovers that routine admin emails are really pulling staff away from some of that deeper instructional work. It is taking way too much time for them. So that team might try to pilot some AI drafted responses for common requests while making sure that they still have a step for human review, keeping humans in the loop, making sure we're not sending emails about lunch to a parent who has a academic concern. Another example is a team might find that some unclear guidance on emerging technologies like AI has driven just some inconsistent and inequitable use throughout different schools or different classrooms, even. So that team might try to decide we're going to pilot a task force to help us really gather some perspectives, look at other, districts' policies, and develop our own shared AI guidelines. Couple more. So, an instructional workflow example. Through some of the talking to different stakeholders, a team might find that teachers that have multiple preps are covering lots of subjects, lots of grade levels, they just don't have the time. And so they might decide to pilot a professional learning community that's really focused on exploring AI to streamline planning informative checks. And then a learning example, after talking to families and students, a team might find that students just aren't getting timely feedback for the revision and deeper learning that they need in some of their courses. So they actually pilot an AI supported tool that offers feedback to students aligned to teachers' rubrics. So these again are not meant to say, hey, these are the types of pilots we expect folks to do. They're just meant to give you types of examples as you're trying to think about, is this the right, opportunity for me? These are the types of things that we would help a team say, yes, we want to address this issue. Yes, we think that AI can be a very powerful tool in doing it. Let's put together a pilot that will help us to test this out, to learn a lot, and to think about how this can really change the work that we're doing in this particular setting.
Okay, so before we jump into the application, I just want to pause for a minute. You've gotten a lot of information about the why, the how, and some examples. Does anyone have a question before we jump into the actual what we're talking about for the application? And you can either put it in the chat or raise your Zoom hand. And I will say, as a former teacher, I'm really bad with wait time. So I will give it another minute before the silence makes me uncomfortable and we move on.
Yeah, Megan, I'll take a couple. So, as a reminder, we will be sending this whole entire recording out to folks. We could also find a way, I think, to attach the slides. So, yes, folks will be able to reference this information. We can also add it to our Rural AI Strategy Lab website so that folks can access it there. In terms of how often meetings occur, there will likely be a cohort session more or less once a month for April, May, and then I think August and September. We know that given summer schedules, not everybody will be able to attend all of those. And so we really prioritize full cohort attendance at the first and the last. In between, if the only person that can make it is the team lead, we understand. We'll make sure that we can do that. But in terms of those all like cohort sessions, that's the general cadence. Coaching, we would expect to happen on a monthly basis. And so teams should expect to hold, 45 minutes to an hour for those monthly coaching meetings. And then, as we noted, there will be some asynchronous work that teams are going out there to do. So that might be holding stakeholder interviews, giving a survey, planning to integrate a PD session on AI, whatever that is aligned to your particular pilot. That's kind of the time commitment that's there. So we would say once a month coaching, right around an hour. Cohort sessions, which would be likely 45 minutes, let's say 4 times throughout the course. And then just some kind of on your own as you go work to make sure that you're able to enact your pilot.
I will answer Veronica's question. So we've gotten this question a couple of times. Can someone who's working at an intermediary or a technical assistance agency, who is working with multiple schools, can they apply for those schools or apply for multiple schools? So the application does need to come from the school or the district person, because they are the folks who are going to be actually doing the piloting work. If you are from an intermediary or a technical assistant or technical assistance organization or anything like that, you can absolutely help them with the application. Should they be selected for as to be part of the strategy lab, you would be an invaluable person to have on their team, in addition to the district person, the school leadership person, and someone from the classroom. So your schools do need to apply themselves, but again, you are welcome to help them and be part of it should they be selected. Ashley, do you want to answer Brian's question about data
Yeah.
review and lessons learned?
So, in addition to kind of celebrating and sharing out outcomes, that will be something that we focus on one of the last cohort sessions is thinking about, hey, let's take a look at this data, make sure that we've seen the outcomes of our pilot, not just from what we set out to achieve, but also how it was received by multiple stakeholders. So, I would say that the majority of that work can be done in your last coaching session as well as the last cohort session that we have. The asterisk that I'll probably put on a lot of that is that some of it depends on what your specific pilot is. It may take a little bit more time, it may take a little bit less time, depending on the scale and complexity of what you're going after. So, for example, if you decide to pilot something in a grade level of 3 teachers, that's different than saying, I want to pilot a PD strategy across an entire school. Those are different altitudes. But in general, I would say the coaching in the cohort session would be the time that is held enough to review data.
Great. And we had a question about stipend. So the stipend is $4,000, regardless of the team or the team size. You will be able to decide how you want to spend that stipend on activities related to the grant. So if you are dispersing it amongst team members, that's going to be the decision of your team or your district supervisor, however you have determined that that's going to work. But it is 4,000 for each team. Um, and the question about if the whole team needs to attend the coaching sessions. So the full cohort sessions will need to be attended by the full team. The individual coaching sessions can be attended by the team lead. So each team will be deciding who their team lead is, and those coaching sessions can happen with just the team lead or the whole team, if they'd like. Okay, so please feel free to continue asking questions in the chat, which we'll answer as we go or when I get to the end of this section. So let's dig into what the application is actually asking. So the first section of the application is going to ask you some demographic questions. The reason we're asking this is that we are looking to put together a cohort that is diverse across multiple contexts. We want not only diversity in thought, but also as we are generating these field-facing tools and resources, we want to make sure that they are applicable to as a broadly generalizable population as possible. So that means we need a lot of voices that represent different communities, different racial and ethnic backgrounds, different socioeconomic statuses. We're looking for different states. We're looking for the different types of rural. If you are unsure about your classification for the NCES rural locale classification, I can drop the link in a little bit later, but you can check it. NCES has a database that you can check and a location lookup. If you are a district applying and you have some schools that are rural and some schools that aren't, that's okay. And if some schools are fringe and some schools are distance, that's okay too. Pick the one that most of your schools fit into that category, and that's fine. When you are noting the student enrollment and the student demographics and teacher and staff demographics, don't kill yourself over needing to find exact numbers. You can round, and that's fine. Again, we're asking these questions so that as we do the selection process, we're making sure that we're covering as many different groups of folks as possible. So then the bulk of the application is where we really want to learn about you. We want your application to come off the page and help us understand who you are as a school community, who you are as people. We want to really learn about who your students are, what makes them unique, or what makes them special. Everyone thinks that their students are unique and special. Tell us what makes them unique and special. We want to learn more about your culture. Are you set up to be a team member that can really innovate? We want to know what's hard too. Part of being in Strategy Lab is that you're going to need to come to the table and say what's working, but also what's not working. So please don't feel afraid to say, here are the challenges we're experiencing. We want to hear those challenges. That's going to tell us that you're really invested in what you're doing and that you want to move forward. We want to hear about your approach to innovation. And innovation doesn't just have to be technology. Innovation can be anything that is shifting your paradigm, the way that your school is operating, the way that you're thinking. We also really want to see your comfort with trying new ideas, learning from data, and iterating. If you've done design thinking work before, or the rapid improvement cycles, the PDSA, I think that's what it's called, the cycles, Tony Brake cycles. We want to know that you can learn quickly as you're looking at data and continue to improve. The last piece is asking you to acknowledge these acknowledgments. So whether if you're applying from the school level, we do need to know that you have district or charter network support to participate. So it is a good idea to flag this for your superintendent and make sure that they are on board with you applying. We need to know that you are committed to piloting ideas and learning through this iteration. We need an assurance that you are a school or district that does not have a ban against AI. You're going to need to be able to use AI, so that needs to be in place. We need to know that you can get the kind of data that you're going to need to learn about whether your pilot is working, and be able to analyze and improve. And we also need to know that you are agreeing to be part of the participant expectations, that you are going to need your team lead to come to all the coaching sessions. We'll need the teams to come to the cohort and at least one person to join for symposium. And I should note that we will cover the travel and registration for full scale symposium for your one team member. Okay, and so as we move forward, by the end of February, we'll be able to let everyone know where you stand in terms of this process. And we'll be selecting a group of teams that will be part of an hour-long interview with, or less, an interview with a full-scale team member or an All4Ed team member. By the first week of March, we'll be letting everyone know their status, and we'll be selecting the final 12 to 15 teams. If you are selected as the final teams, we're going to hit the ground running right away in March with onboarding calls. We'll need to get your MOU signed. You'll be doing some asynchronous work around your needs assessment and administering the AI Innovation Index, and the rest of the data collection that you'll need for your needs assessment. And you'll be preparing for the full cohort launch, which will be in early April.
So,
Okay.
Megan, yeah, I would love to answer a question based on one of those pieces around acknowledging the AI ban. Can you clarify a little bit more about that?
Yes. All platforms, great. I don't think all platforms have to be allowed. There are places that have said no one can use AI, teachers can't use AI, administrators can't use AI. We don't want any AI anywhere in our schools. If that is the case, that would be an issue. If you have a ban, if students aren't allowed to use it, I don't think that precludes you from this, because you could be using AI for an instructional or non-instructional workflow.
So, which school constituents take the needs assessment? So, this will vary slightly based off of your school team and your specific context. But in general, think about this as wanting a wide variety of stakeholder perspectives. So, while it might not be a formal like survey, we want to have different methods for making sure we've got perspective from teachers, from school leaders or instructional leaders, from district staff, from families, potential from students. Again, how that works, it doesn't necessarily mean we need to do like a survey for each of them, but we want to make sure, one of the questions that we'll ask is, hey, what do your students think about this and how do you know? And so there might be a couple of different ways that we get to that piece, but in general, I would say student families, teachers, school leaders, district perspective. In some cases, we might also expand that to say we want broader community perspective and insight, depending on, again, your specific locale and the context of what you're working to tackle.
And the other thing I just dropped in the chat is the AI Innovation Index. So this is linked more on our website. But if you are selected for the final group, we will be using this AI Innovation Index as part of the needs assessment, which does include a senior level survey and a very, very quick, like 30-second teacher and student survey as well. Um, you should apply as a team. So again, the teams can be you can have a larger team. At a minimum, your teams need to have someone who represents the district level, someone who represents the school leadership level, and someone who's representing the classroom level. Um, which of those folks actually submits the application is up to you.
Also worth noting that we know that folks can wear a lot of different hats. And so that's why, it could be possible that you actually have a school leader who has both. They both work at the district level as well as lead the school. That's okay. We do say a minimum of two folks, and I would also just note, while we don't have any kind of hard like guardrails around this, just historically, I think once you get past like four or like the school or five maybe, teams do get a little bit big in terms of cascading information. So if that's helpful, it's not where we're envisioning like teams of 10. We do think about this as being kind of a smaller, more agile and nimble team.
Other questions? And again, feel free to raise your Zoom hand or put them in the chat.
I'd love to address one. Just, I didn't say this at the start of the call, but I am a former teacher, coach, school leader, and I know that one question that I have had asked of myself sometimes is the timeline of this spans the summer, and so that is kind of an interesting timeline for piloting. We actually think this sets us up for a really awesome opportunity to kind of take advantage of gathering some information from folks and then utilizing that window kind of after state assessment is done, like, in the spring, summer, at the launch of the school. There are going to be some really unique opportunities here to pilot things either at the end of the school year or at the start of the school year. So just know that while we have programming that does follow a general arc and scope and sequence, that's an opportunity for school teams and their coaches to really talk about, hey, here's our school calendar. Here's when our school PD might be. Here is our unique like testing windows and community events to really find a way to make that 6-month timeline work for you. So while it doesn't traditionally follow the school year timeline, we think that there's a real opportunity in utilizing some of the not downtime, but different time that folks might be using some of their like late spring and summertime.
So Brian's question about, again, if you are a TA or an intermediary and you're working with multiple schools, should you choose one school or a small set of schools? So this is again going to be it's up to you about who you. I mean, I think you should share we think you should share the opportunity with everyone. Um, ultimately, it will if one of your schools is selected, it will be that one team. Um, so, as Ashley mentioned, the teams really shouldn't get above four, and we need someone from each of those levels that we've mentioned. And so, similarly, if you're at the district, oh, I'm sorry, you are at the district with multiple schools. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. So, you will likely want to choose one school. You could choose more, and you could have a school leader from two schools. I would caution getting much larger than that without some on the ground support to help you because these pilots are small, but they are fast moving. And you're going to be collecting a lot of data. And so it's usually better to start a pilot smaller and then plan for larger scaling in the fall and as we move forward. So that decision's up to you, but I would keep in mind what that practically would mean for implementation. Okay, we are a two-school district that is actually contained in one building. Um, we act as one in many ways. Do I need to pick a side? No, you do not need to pick a side. You can in the application and in the demographics, it asks which levels, which grade levels you serve, and you can just check them all off. Um, Once we actually do, if you're selected and you do the needs assessment, it may end up that based on the data you collect, that the problem you're having focuses more on one. It could be one grade level, it could be one set of grades. But we won't know that until you're done the needs assessment. So you can definitely apply it as the whole school. Any more questions we can answer while we're on together?
I will let Megan have the last word here, but I did just want to say a tremendous thank you to all of you for taking time out of your day, for just showing interest. We are so excited at the potential of this opportunity, and we cannot wait to work with and learn alongside folks.
I did just share. Oh, Jessica, I'll answer you in 1 second. I did just put our website in the chat. Please, there's a lot of information on there as well as our contact information. We will probably post this session as well on there, so make sure to take a look there. Um, if our school district falls outside of rural designation, but our feeder towns are rural. Oh, Jessica, that's a great question.
What I would recommend, Jessica, is that potentially we set up a quick call to just talk about the context. And generally, we've told folks like apply and we'll figure it out or we'll see, but we certainly don't want to waste anybody's time. So that might be a great opportunity for us to follow up with you one off just to better understand the context.
And if there are more sort of niche examples like that, you're welcome to email us. Yay, Vermont! All right. Well, we hope to read all of your applications very soon. The deadline is February 13th, technically at midnight, Eastern Standard Time. Don't be like me and don't turn it in at 11:58 p.m. We would love to read them as soon as you can. And if you have any questions, check out our website and you can reach out. And we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, everyone.